Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of February 4, 2018 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Roll call, please.
Councilman Bruno. Councilman Cassio.
Here.
Councilman Cumming.
Here.
Councilman Oman.
Here.
Council President DeSena.
Here, let the record reflect also in attendance Mayor Calamari, Township Administrator Tovo, Township Attorney Holler, CFO Curran, and Township Clerk Wachowski. Could everybody please stand for a salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Also, Township Engineer Yakimic is here also.
Where was it?
why it's
You
got-
don't like it up there. I get it.
Mayor's appointment with consent of council, the appointment of fire inspector, Mr. Calamari.
Yes, I had the paperwork here a second ago.
Got it? Right, it's right after your agenda. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Please be advised that having considered the need for such services, as well as the recommendation of the fire official, I am hereby appointing the following person to the following office or position below. Thomas Lepore, position fire inspector.
Mr. Mayor, our previous fire inspector has resigned.
Yes, he's leaving the area.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question, is there a term on this?
No. No.
He said no.
No.
So Mr. DiRienzo is resigning for moving out of town. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No.
Mr. Kwasniewski.
Kwasniewski.
Oh, Mr. Kwasniewski?
Yes.
Mr. DeRienzo's the fire official.
Oh. Well, I have that letter also, so I guess that's coming.
No. This is just telling you that this is to Mr. DeRienzo saying that he's resigning.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, thank you. So Mr. Kwasniewski is resigning?
Yes.
Correct. Any discussion, gentlemen? Council resolutions relating to certain appointments. Resolution number 19-137, appointment of fire inspector Thomas Lepore. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno. Councilman Cassio.
Yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Reading of the total list of bills, Ms. Wachowski.
The following is a list of bills paid since the last bill list was submitted, representing January 1 through January 31st, 2019. Total 2018 reserve, $153,879.10. Total 2018 current, $2,353,583.34. Total capital fund, $4,352.64. Total animal control, $12. Total grant fund, $12,154.48. Total trust fund, $0. Total escrow trust, $9,394 even.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, Mr. Alden?
Just as we, on page 2, as we consider the planning, I had inquired about a grinder to reduce the volume, and I know cost goes up as we grind it even smaller, but, $876 a truck seems, a lot of money, and I know this is just a part of it, so I don't know if that would be considered, but I think it should be. On page 7, PO 37032. Again, it's contributions due after expenses. I'm assuming this is net, since we're saying it's after expenses. Can we just confirm that? And I thought at some point...
Where are you, Mike, again?
On page 7, check number 37032. It's 3 from the bottom. Township of
Public
Washington
Library.
Public Library.
Yep.
Is that net?
It is net. I actually spoke with Joy, and she said what they do is on the PO itself, she puts what's due, and then she backs out pension, medical, so on and so forth, and she kind of said that amount. So it's all detailed on the PO, if you'd like to see it.
Well, it's not that I want to see it. I think that anyone who asks might want to see it, and rather than having to dig down through it, shouldn't we do it gross and have those other lines?
If you wanted that, Rachel.
I mean, I would imagine that it would be more transparent to anyone who is looking at it going forward. If someone has to know and then inquire even further for additional POs and details, it just creates...
Well, it could be done.
Judy, can you move the microphone closer, please?
I'm sorry, it could be done that way.
On page 8, check 37094, petty cash. Do we have a petty cash log, and is it reviewed by someone?
Well, petty cash is actually turned in at the end of each year and then reopened again. We have finance background, so that's what we do here also. Everyone turns in, and we actually open it up again at the beginning of the year, and that's what that is.
But is the log of expenses monitored?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
Bernadette does that.
Okay.
So this is the initial 2019 petty cash budget of $500.
Yes, you're closing
Correct.
out the old and
And
opening up
opening
the
it,
new.
yeah.
On page 12, check number 37106, Delta Dental for retirees. Do we have lifetime benefits for retirees?
No, what happens is they send in a check to us, and they only have a plan, and then we pay it.
Okay.
They pay the entire premium.
And how many people do we have
I think
on?
there's only a few. Let's see what we have here, retirees, it's 134.68, maybe that might be 1 or 2 people.
Is that consistent with the way we treat our retirees? Is that open to everyone? Is this a,
This is
It
open
was
to
done
any,
that way when I was here, I don't know about.
I believe we were going to stop that practice. If I recall previous conversations, it's for the people that were already in it. This is going back probably 4 years ago or so. There was discussion that we weren't going to offer that for future retirees, but we can check with Mr. Fedini, I guess, Mike?
well, that was the question, because I thought that we had stopped that practice, that there was one individual who was a retiree, or it was, I don't even want to, misspeak, it was a family member, but I was under the impression that that practice was, we were doing away with it, and it just stood out that we have.
Well, I don't believe we've had too many recent retirees. So I don't know, does anybody on the council know who might have retired within the last couple of years?
well, I think it's fair to say that Ms. Curran and I aren't familiar with any prior decisions of council, so let's research and get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, but my understanding was that it was for current, and then we weren't going to carry the program forward, Mr. Tovo. So if you can check that out, that would be
Yes, sir.
fantastic.
That's helpful.
Thank you.
Does that mean anybody that's still on is going to stay on, or?
Yes, if they were already on previous, they were going to stay on.
But
as
no new additions.
no new additions, and I forgot when that exactly was. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago that came up.
And on page 13, check number 37115. So, and perhaps I don't understand, I thought I was beginning to gain some comprehension here, but I thought we could pay 18 and 19. It seems we're paying from 17.
Well,
which-
that's a 2-year budget, so you do have 2 years, that goes into accounts payable.
But if we're in,
We're in 19 now.
If we're in 19,
You can still pay a 17 PO.
a 17, I
Yes.
thought you could pay an 18 and a 19.
Two-year budget. It's always a two-year budget. It's appropriation reserves if it's 18, and it's accounts payable if it's 17. See what it says there, accounts payable, 901, 50901? That's your second year of your budget. 2 years prior.
Okay. So we could have, do we know how many open POs we have for 17?
I don't think we have that many. As a matter of fact, see if I have his name right. Is it Pete and Sarah? Is that maybe his
Yes.
name? Okay. I spoke with him today, and he said that somehow this PO was, I don't know, lost somewhere in the pile somewhere from way back when, and he came and we were getting it paid.
Do we have an open PO log that
Yes.
we could run?
Yes.
So,
I actually read it at year end.
and was this on it for 17?
Yes, it was.
And do we have any others for 17?
I don't believe there were too many, I don't believe there were 17. I think I would have quartered, the water would quarter.
Okay. The last question is on page 16, check 3364, 3365, and 3366. The active shooter equipment, as well as the traffic sign, when I pulled the ordinance, especially around the active shooter equipment, I didn't see a sort of an expense category or an appropriation category that covered that. So I'm just trying to understand how it was.
Probably was under police equipment, I would imagine. I mean, I don't have the ordinance in front of me.
Well, so it was fire department, Scott packs, police radios. I don't recall there being, I mean, unless it's broad enough that it could be any police equipment.
Well, we can check it.
Okay.
There was a category in the 18 budget for active shooter equipment for the PD. I'm not sure how well specified it is in the ordinance, but I'll research and get back to you.
Okay. And the last is on 3366, Wi-Fi for town hall. So do we have Wi-Fi for town hall?
You do?
We do now, yes. About 2 months ago,
And we have it in this chamber.
building wide.
That was one you had the password last time? Remember you asked? That's why.
Thank you.
Are you done, Mr. Alban?
I'm done.
Thank you. Approval of minutes, none. Report of the mayor, Mr. Calvary?
Thank you. Evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. 2019 road program. We'll soon be reviewing the roads to include in this year's program. When they have been identified, we'll run cameras through the sanitary sewer and stormwater lines under them to make any necessary repairs before paving them. Intersection. The county sent plans to our engineer late last week. We'll be meeting with them soon to review them and keep this important project moving forward. Eagle Scout project. Ethan O'Malley put together a nice veterans display here at Town Hall. It's mounted on the wall behind the stairs on the main level. While visiting the building, please take a look at it. The Scouts are doing many great things in our town. New ambulance and fire building. Both organizations have been meeting with the architect to refine the space requirements of a new building. Ambulance and Fire Department annual reorganization dinners. It's an honor and privilege to be invited to and attend these annual dinners to swear in their officers for the new year. Town calendars. I hope you have all received the 2019 calendar. I want to recognize Bernadette for being the point person in consolidating all the information the department heads offer and working with the printer on the format and the mailing. Grant writer, we have issued a request for quotation from grant writers. And last, radio system, we are accepting delivery of new trial radios later this week for our emergency services to start testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Alban, report of the council.
No report.
Mr. Cumming?
Just a very brief, January 27th, after our last meeting and before this meeting, Sunday was Holocaust Remembrance Day. That was the day that Auschwitz was liberated at the end of the toward the end of the Second World War. Thank goodness for that. The PSE&G direct install, the LED lighting is all completed in the building. There were 2 repairs. One was in the police hallway, and the other was in the fire department building, the firehouse. Took them a couple of days to get there on a repair, but the lighting has worked out just excellent and very well. We have 5 more split systems and heating units to put in, primarily in this building. The furnace portion and blower has been delivered. I'm going to call Ryan and find out, they were waiting for the condenser side for air conditioning, which we haven't needed much in the last week, but it's getting toward that today. And we expect to finish that soon and then be able to take on our additional projects, which the shared services, which Dr. Casio will report on, and so on, and field price reductions, which Mr. DeSena was helping me with. But so that's about it. Thank you.
Dr. Casio?
Yeah, just a limited report tonight. I was invited to the Advisory Board of Health in the Township of Washington, and they want to throw out some ideas to the council there to advise us on what our needs for are health-wise. And I think the subjects that we broached were the need for a possible mental health program here in the town, or at least sub it out to another agency. Another main topic that they were concerned about was the opioid crisis. Obviously it's not just in Patterson, Passaic, and Newark, it's in all the suburbs, and it's becoming worse and worse. They want to take some type of positive action towards that. And the third avenue they would like to explore is some type of wellness program town-wide for all ages, whether it be the youth, the middle-aged, or the seniors. And I think that's, we're going to get a little report from them. They'll be given to the mayor and the council, and we can kind of peruse that when we get it. And they said they'd probably get it to us within the next month. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Dr. Gasser. Just a few quick things. Mr. Mayor, Administrator Tolo, would it be possible to, we are a stigma-free town for mental health and awareness. Would it be possible to, like all the other towns have done, put up a sign that we are a stigma-free community and make sure all our employees are using that? There's a little caveat that goes on the bottom of the emails. But I think it's important that, I think we're the only town that doesn't identify that we're stigma-free. I think everybody around us has their signs up except us. I don't think it's a big expense to put that up. Secondly, just a quick little update. I know Mr. Tova will probably get into it later, but the Red House, the tenants have moved out as of the end of November. And Mr. Tova is preparing plans to have it demolished, hopefully soon.
That's correct. We're working with the utilities for shut-offs, and I have one quote for demolition and removal.
Okay. And just another word to the public, if you have any questions, social media is not the place to get answers. You have all our email addresses and all our phone numbers. Please reach out to us. We're here for you. So before you start going down the social media route, please reach out to us and get the facts. Thank you. General public discussion. Do I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Connolly?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Would anybody like to come up and address the council at this time? Mrs. Osmond?
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. I'd like to thank the mayor, I guess council also, about the calendar, except again, there were no names of any employees, such as the police, the fire. It would be nice if people, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, there are a lot of people out there that would love to know We have a lot of promotions for our police officers, and we don't even know what their new titles are or some of their names. And it's just a comment, but I said it last year, and I'll keep saying it again and again until we see some names of employees. We seem to stabilize with our employees now, so it would have been quite easy to do. Okay. Last year, there were 3 appointments not approved by the council. Why were there no new suggestions for these 3 positions in January? There doesn't seem to be any transparency. Can someone answer me on that?
I'm happy with the job they're doing, and so I don't see any reason to put forth any new names in those positions.
So those 3 people could be there for 20 years if you get elected for 20 years, correct? I'm sorry, there's no transparency.
I don't understand what's lack of transparent about that. To me, transparency means you're trying to hide something. I'm not hiding anything.
Well, the fact that you had said when you came in here, you're going to change, we're going to go for change. Well, we didn't do a lot of
I changed
change.
a lot of positions, but I was never said I was going to clean house fully.
You didn't change a lot of positions, and I think if
I
anybody
beg to
looks back
differ.
in the records, they'll see it. All right, the next thing I want to say is, I want to make a comment about Memorial Field Committee. The mayor said that he wanted $25,000 for a study, and this is what the committee wanted. Well, I don't kind of remember it that way. I don't think we asked for a study that was going to cost $25,000. And I thank the council for not approving that. Everyone on the committee knows that Memorial Field needs drainage. We know that work has had to be done. I was the biggest proponent on saying, redo the drainage. Also, the lighting has to be done. That's very important also. What we were looking for is down the line that someone does something about fields. We had I went back and I left all the papers over there. I had the reports from Mr. Dugan, who was he made himself chairman of our committee. And we came down to the fact that we all needed something for the fields, but we need new fields. We know that the fields are used too much, Memorial Field. Everyone knows this. This is not, we sat here for a year, and, the mayor said that there were a lot of people who had very strong feelings both ways. Well, yes, but the mayor himself has very strong feelings. When he was the person that I had asked when the ordinance for the artificial turf went out, I asked the committee, the council at that time, would they please go to the voters and see what the voters say? And I was told that the council, they were made the council by the people, and therefore that's the way it was going to be. Well, obviously, it's not what everybody wanted in this town. So there are still, and then, Mr. Cummings, I want to thank you for taking on, except 3/4 of the work that you had to start from scratch, we had already done. Mrs. Cannon, who has she's a physical therapist, she has a degree in all kind of sciences and such. She had done a lot of the work already. And so you actually took 2 steps back before you were allowed to take 1 step forward. And I feel bad about that because, I know you did a lot of work, but a lot of that work had been done in advance. We had come up with people to talk to, people to come here, everything of that nature. And I just think it's difficult for you, especially to take it on by yourself. I was a little upset because it was said that we'd be getting some kind of a notice about canceling this committee. Well, 2 weeks have gone by, and we've received nothing. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Oakley. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time?
Tony Plantamura, 808 Robinwood Road. I'm going to take this opportunity at a public forum to let everybody know how I feel. Mr. Cassio, you suggested that we need these mental health programs. You're going to laugh at this, but I have to say it. I think we ought to start with our governor, who I did not vote for, because he's now making us a sanctuary state. He raised the minimum wage recently up to $15 an hour. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to stay in business anymore to pay a 15-year-old kid $15 an hour. He wants to give driver's license now to illegal immigrants, and he wants to raise our taxes. So for all of those out there who voted for this governor, thanks a lot. So I wanted to start out saying that. he's the first one that needs a mental health program, as far as I'm concerned. There are so many things to talk about in this town. I just want to let you know that I'm very disappointed with how things are progressing. Still nothing done about the change of government. That was a campaign promise. I brought it up last time I was here, I think. Also, I don't need...
Mrs. Plantamara, can I stop you there for a second? There's two avenues to change the form of government. The first is to get approximately, I think it's 1,750 signatures by the people, just like you did for the fields. Once those 1,750 signatures are submitted to the council, the borough attorney will prepare a referendum for the next public election.
I'm aware of that.
So
But
once
it was
that,
also going to be done by the council members.
let me get to the second part of this. If it's done by the council, we need to have a unanimous council to do it. And then what happens is, I've spent 40 or 50 hours talking to a gentleman down at Division of Local Government Services. I'm very well versed in this because I know I said it during the campaign and I was misguided to think we could turn this into a borough form of government, and that's why I said it. We cannot turn this into a borough form of government. It will remain a Faulkner form of government until the Township of Washington ceases to exist. It could become a different form of Faulkner government, but it can never become the borough of Westwood like people think it can. It will never become the borough of Westwood, or a form of borough. So what happens then is if this council chooses to pass an ordinance, what will happen is a question will go on the next general election, yes or no, do you want to change the form of government to this type of Faulkner? Two things happen. It either passes or it fails. If it fails, it dies right then and there. If it happens to pass, we then have to take nominations of committee members. Those committee members then have to have a special election to be voted upon. The top 5 vote getters, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or Independents, run the committee. There is no say, it's the top 5. So you could have 5 people and all 5 would win, or you could have 25 people and the top 5 vote getters become the committee. After that happens, the committee is formed. 3 things happen after that. The committee could decide in a few days, we don't think we need to change the form of government. The process stops. The committee could decide that we will change the form of government, which then will take it to another election. Then it needs to pass that election. It is a 3 to 4 year process from start to finish, is what I've been told by Department of Local Government Services. And I think there's 1 or 2 towns that have done it, have tried to do it, and only 1 has accomplished it. So that is the answer to your question. So it's not like we didn't research this. It is a very difficult, daunting task and a very expensive task. And it could fail right after the ordinance in the first election. So if you'd like, I could meet with you, I could share all my information with you. You can call Department of Local Government Services, because I have, I've spent 50 or 60 hours on the phone, maybe more. And I admit it. During the debate, I said I'd like to change the form of government because I was told we could change it to a borough form of government, which I'm very intimate with, being an engineer in towns which were borough forms of government. That is not the case. So I'll give you back your time, but I just have to put that out there.
Okay. The other thing is, at the last council meeting, Councilman Ullman said something, not at the last one, but one of the past prior council meetings. He said something about renting a artificial field, and you were going to look into that for the expense for certain events on that field. I was just wondering and curious if anything came back with that.
I did not receive a response.
Who did you ask?
I made a request. It was going to be reviewed by the administration, but I didn't receive a response as to what it was for.
Can you look into that?
It was answered at the council meeting after that, that was rented by the midget football for practice leading up to their championship game.
Are we talking about the same subject?
We are.
Are you asking
It's
who
on
rented
front
the
of the
field?
Yeah, I didn't know what the outcome was that, because I thought that was interesting that he brought that up. And I didn't know what the expense was, because I think you were talking about it for the fall festival or something?
No, it
Cover?
was in our list of bills, and the list of bills just has a very brief explanation. It doesn't have a great deal of detail. It's 30 or 40 characters that they try to put a descriptor in, and that's what prompted my question as to why we, or who rented it.
Okay.
And it was a one-time expense.
The other thing that I noticed lately, I've already brought this up, and I know some other people have concerns, but I don't know where the borough is about looking into shared services. I know I've gotten up here and said it, but I noticed that the mayor of Hillsdale has been very vocal about this. I have a couple of articles here. I don't have time to read them, obviously, but...
Councilman Castillo and Councilman Cumming have invited all the administrators from all the adjoining contiguous towns to meet to discuss shared services, correct?
We didn't invite the administrators, we invited a representative from each town.
Oh, excuse me.
Whether it be a councilman or a mayor or both, we don't mind having two from one town. And we were going to meet, and the clerk sent out a letter that we're going to meet on the third Thursday of every month to see if we can come up with some form of shared services, whether it be personnel or equipment, you know, or some type of, you know, something that we can share. We had one back early when I was with Ms. Sopwitz in an earlier administration, and it seemed to work well. We had a little thing with Westwood. We shared for electronic disposal, which worked out very well, e-waste, whatever the technical name is for. And we're going to try and resuscitate that and see if we can get some more services that the surrounding towns with Washington Township can work together on.
And this,
So we are working on it.
administration, with the mayor's help, when we met with County Executive Tedesco, we have entered into a road salt shared service, and we have entered into a fuel shared service with the county. So both those were enacted early this year, Mr. Mayor?
Late last year. I
Late
believe.
last year, early
Yes.
this year.
We are working on shared service. I mean, to spend something twice that's redundant for surrounding communities, I think is a little bit crazy. Anywhere
Yeah.
we can save costs, we're going to try and do it.
I just feel like old school isn't going to work in the next 10 years in this state. I think the state is really going to suffer. I think the state is being overdeveloped. I feel like I'm being suffocated, especially when we're driving around on the roads here.
1 minute, Mrs. Buckler.
And if something isn't done at the top level with consolidating, especially police, fire, and school districts, and I know we have a shared service with Westwood, which is good, we don't even know the impact of the new tax where we can only deduct up to $10,000 on our property taxes. I really feel that the state now is having more people move out than move in. And we all know it, and this great state that I really loved, I'm a Jersey girl, I'm really feeling right now that it's going to get to a point where I don't even want to live here anymore, because it's just like development over development. I have all these articles, you know, about all these developments, and it's all talking about parking garages and multifamily housing, low-income housing. That's not what we're supposed to be about. So all this stuff, I feel, is just going to go by the wayside. And I blame prior administrations for not fighting the state on this harder. They should have been connected. All these municipalities, they should have sued the state about this fair housing coalition they have, because this is ruining our state. And I believe they said if this doesn't stop, this low-income housing mandate, there's going to be over 1 million units built in the state of New Jersey over the next 10 years. And most people I talk to have no clue to what's going on, which is really sad. Because I know what's going on, because my property was affected by eminent domain and this low-income housing. And it's just sad. There's no property left in this state. Tell them to go build in Wyoming. There's plenty of property out there, but I don't know where we're going as a state. But I had an article in here about the Lyndhurst payout for the police chief there. It's ridiculous. It's like, where do you come up with this kind of money for taxpayers? It's all going to come to a head within the next 10 years. I like this state. I wish it was going to stay the way it is, but I don't think it is. It's getting bad.
Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close the public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Ordinances under adoption, second reading, none. Introduction, first reading, ordinance number 19-01, an ordinance under Chapter 55 of the Code of Township of Washington setting forth the range of compensation and manner of payment of employees for the years 2019 through 2021. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 19-01 at first reading by title. I have some comments on the ordinance, Mr. Tova.
We got a motion
Motion,
first.
please.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I think,
I think I go through the roll.
oh, roll call. No, we do comment first, right?
No, you have a, no roll call. It's comment first.
Okay. There's a couple departments, Mr. Tomo, that I see what you've done. I think with the new hires, do we really need a deputy tax collector full-time and a tax collector assistant part-time?
Your point is well taken, Mr. President. I left them in there because in the event that there's a change down the road to prior ways we filled these positions, you would have an historical reference to what they were compensated at. But if you'd like them removed, we can do that.
Gentlemen, how do you feel about that?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, these are controlled since you obviously see we went to a range now.
No, I understand
Like a lot
that,
of
but I
our
just-
surrounding towns, you don't have to fund any of these, but like Bob is saying, in case we lose a full-timer who was doing multiple positions and we have to go back to a part-time, the thinking was leave it in here, but would be unfunded.
Well, I think there's a typo, Mr. Tova. If you look at the Department of Finance for deputy tax collector full-time, you have 44,000 to 7,000?
Got a
Oh,
revised
that
one.
was that was the revised one,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So
But
that's
you are
changed.
correct, that was a typo.
Yeah, okay. I also saw, where's my other question? Give me 1 second. Where's the employee benefits manager?
Is that the last page where,
Is that employee benefits manager?
oh, no, it's under finance.
Number four,
Number
under
four.
finance.
Oh, yeah. A town of our size, do we really need a benefits coordinator?
Well, we currently have somebody serving in that capacity, part-time, quasi.
So I think one of the things you know, rest of the council, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've made a lot of people full-time people. And by making them full-time, you know, their job responsibilities are not supposed to diminish, they're supposed to be, you know, added to, I would think, rather than,
And they certainly are. I mean, I would be
Okay.
happy to condense these job titles,
Okay.
maybe clean it up so that they're not drawing from.
but I just want to
various
make sure
funds.
that the job descriptions of the new full-timers versus what their job descriptions were in the past are commensurate with what we expect them to do now as full-timers and not part-timers. Because I would expect more duties rather than less duties, so.
I would agree, and one thing, when you do the new personnel manual, new job descriptions will be included.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions on this?
Yes. So is this consistent, aside from the rates, is this consistent with prior years? Have we always done a 2-year?
We're the only town in Bergen County that doesn't have an ordinance for ranges. This is the first time we're doing this, Mike.
I was
Understand
talking
it.
about the 2-year
The 2-year,
from 19 to 2021.
19 to 2021.
Well, we've never done it before. Is that typical, Bob, I guess is Mike's question?
It's always good to put a range of years in the ordinance, so you know to go back and recheck it every few years or so. So I put in 19 to 21, so that we know in '21 to revisit.
But this is the first year ever this administration is adopting a salary range ordinance, correct?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
We don't have one.
And therefore, it's multi-year.
Yeah, okay. Anything else?
I'd prefer for it not to be a 3-year range. I mean, I understand the interest in setting ranges to give the administration flexibility with hiring and as well as increases. I don't understand the benefit if we could do this annually, why we have to do a 3-year range. So I would prefer not to be 3 years. The second, for council person, number 3, the lower range, if you could make it to 4,500. As Dr. Cascio has pointed out, if you are under, I think it's 5,000, there's no pension contribution, and I've last year put my salary or my stipend below that, so to avoid that contribution, so if it could just be noted there. Land use administration, we have meeting fee and preparation of minutes. We've had an issue with minutes in a variety of areas. Is it possible, I don't know if it has to be noted in the ordinance or if it is something that can be done administratively, but I don't believe the meeting should be paid until the minutes are actually generated, because we have quite a bit of back minutes that are due in our land use department.
I couldn't agree with you more. However, with the way the current situation is, the person we have in the Planning and Zoning Board, it's included in her salary to do the minutes. So again, this is just more of a memo item in case it ever went back to a part-time person who was doing the minutes separate from their full-time employment.
Well then, not as a measurement of an individual, but as a measurement of the department or the function, I think that we need increased control on the generation of minutes. I don't know how that is affected, but I would suggest we figure out a way to do that. Also, the Department of Law. So last year, we struck down an additional hourly fee. I'd like to add that back in. The Department of Law is providing a service. It is provided in our, I guess, code, and there are additional areas that are covered or that the Department of Law do perform, and I believe that the attorney in the Department of Law should be compensated for that. So we can revisit that. There's an old ordinance that you can look at. I would request that that be added back in.
Yes.
Lines, page 4, the dispatchers, the 2080 hours, that's based on a 40-hour week. What are they working? Because I thought they switched to Pittman, if I'm not mistaken.
They have, yes.
So how does this and this comment translate to what they're working?
They're still paid for a 40-hour work week. The extra additional time would be part of their benefit time off.
Well, I thought one of the things the council had asked for, Mr. Tova, was that eventually the new dispatchers would come on with knowing they were going to work 2,145 hours, not 2080.
They are paid based on 2,080 hours, a 40-hour work week. You have to realize under that Pittman schedule, you don't have even weeks. You'll work less than 40 one week, more than 40 the following week.
Okay, all right. So they don't have any Kelly time or anything coming to them, do they?
They may have some Kelly time, but that's all part of their benefit time and handled within the department.
Okay.
But would their net or gross compensation be over these numbers?
No, their compensation is for 2,080 hours. Their financial compensation.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Allman?
Yes. Mileage allowance, I mean, can we just roll this into their salary at this point? I don't understand why we have a separate line item. These individuals, if they are due this money, roll it into their base salary, acknowledge that it's in that base salary in year one, and that just becomes part of their salary going forward. That would be my recommendation. And retroactivity, does it apply back to January 1st, 2018? On page 7, number 1. Does it go back to 18 or 19?
Should be 19, I believe, right?
On page 7,
Yeah, it's a typo.
retroactivity.
19, that's a typo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I comment on the mileage allowance? I think if it's put into the base salary, or to their salary, I didn't even get that far with it.
Well, then we have
But
to
it's
put it to
taxable.
pension. Well, no,
It's
we have to make
taxable.
additional pension payments for it. Why should we do that?
If they don't have a choice, it may not be taxable. It used to be
Well,
that
yeah, if
with
it's 600
room and
or more,
board
it's taxable
provided.
through 1099.
I'm sorry?
If it's 600 or more, it's taxable through a 1099, number one.
Yeah, but the way we have it now, you won't get pension on $4,000,
Right.
where if we put it into their base salary,
It's
we're gonna
pension,
pay
yes,
them another
exactly.
$4,000 in pension payments. So
It's
that-
not 4,000.
Yes, it is. It's quarterly, so if you make $1,000 a quarter, you're gonna get an additional $4,000 in salary, which would be pensioned at that much.
No, I think
That's
it's
a yearly amount?
They're only giving 600, and it's paid in quarterly installments. So
Correct.
it's 150
Okay.
a month, a quarter.
But it's still 600, it's still $600 more dollars in pension payments, or 1,000 more.
Understood.
And then also, when you give your yearly increase, you're actually increasing on that, because that's basically, it's increasing the base
percent.
salary.
Well, if we're so concerned about expenses, then let's have everyone submit mileage.
Could do that.
You know, so if everyone's concerned about pensions and extra money and paying out, then, you know what? Why don't we do strict miles?
Based on the federal quota?
Yeah.
Could do that.
Do we have to change the procedures manual there?
We would, but I can tell you you're going to pay a lot more money than we have budgeted for here. And Ms. Kern and I will look at it, but it's probably the wrong road to go
Well,
down.
one of my questions is
That's why we did it that way.
is this business administrator for time here or time going to other places, Bob?
Time going to other places.
I'm okay with leaving it the way it is. Mr. Allman, you're in favor of changing it?
Yeah, I'm in favor of either rolling it into their salary, if there's a big concern about it being pensionable and then future compounding based on increases, then make it pay as you go and do it on a strict mile allowance.
I think you're introducing another area of work versus what we have now, where we just give them, the 150 a quarter and call it a day. And then what happens if Mr. Tovo spends 400 in the first quarter, then we gotta revise this? I don't mean to pick on you, Mr. Tovo.
That's quite right.
Yes.
So, everybody okay with changing Mr. Ullman's first line on Mayor and Council item 3 to go to 4,500? Straw poll?
Wait a sec, before we even start with that, I'm in agreement with Mike where it should just be for 1 year, no range for years.
Can I just clarify that if we do it for 1 year, there's no point doing this at all? Because we'll just set the salary for that year and it'll just be a hard number. Why do a range if we're going to change it every year?
We ever have people that resign during the year, Bob? That don't come back,
We do.
right? So now, if I have someone, let's just take your position. Let's say you decide to leave us for whatever reason, and I don't think you are, okay? And we brought you in at 110. We can't find anyone now at 110. Now we have the option at 150, and we can draw money somewhere else, and it's within that range for that year.
All right, we still have to do a separate salary resolution then, so that we actually tag the exact
But
amount.
at least people know, okay, listen, Washington Township is willing to pay up to X, because that's our range. That's the whole purpose why we do a range to begin with. That's why most towns do that range.
No, the whole, part of the purpose of doing a range is so you don't change your ordinance every year. You simply do a salary resolution that reflects or is consistent with your range.
But do we have a separate salary resolution, or is that basically the budget? Because I'm not familiar with, we've never done two.
We have not.
So we would have,
Every year we
Typically,
do
what
this.
most towns do, they do their salary range ordinance, and then every year do a resolution to set the exact amount per position.
if that's, I mean, if that's how it works, if that's, then that's okay with me.
You'd be okay with leaving it for multiple years then?
Yeah, if we're gonna, I mean,
You're still gonna pass everybody's salary as per the budget, so I mean,
understood.
They set the top salary, but the actual
Okay.
salary is paid, is set by the mayor.
you still for
They do
1 year only,
it
then?
There's no.
Mr. Cumming, you okay with multiple years?
It's not like a borough form or different.
Mr. Alman, you okay with multiple years?
They don't involve.
Yeah, as long as there's a separate salary ordinance or,
Excuse me, gentlemen, I can't, this is like
Could you hold on for one, just, I just.
two-sided.
All right, can I just talk with him for 1 second? or-
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so. Yeah, okay, so. All right, so.
Why did you tell us this?
Table. Table. Pass it today. So might as well table and hash out the budget discussion. There's too many changes on the bills.
There's only two things right there.
Is this in the packet?
Yes. Can we table this till we get more
And
information?
Mr. Polar's brought up a point that we need to examine a little bit further, so we'll bring this back to our next meeting.
That's what I thought.
You reflect that we've tabled ordinance number 19-01 at first reading. Individual resolutions, none. Consent agenda, all of the following items have been determined to have unanimous consent to council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution number 19-139, authorized refund of tax lien certificate to MTAG in the amount of $107,648.08. Resolution number 19-140, authorized cancellation of general capital grant receivable for open space in the amount of $11,081. Resolution 19-141, authorized payment of 2018 salaries for fire official and fire inspectors. Resolution number 19-142, authorize refund of escrow money, Block 4408, Lot 20, 217 Colonial Boulevard, in the amount of $90. Resolution number 19-143, authorize refund the building department application fees, Block 4301, Lot 1, 495 Colonial Boulevard, in the amount of $175. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Can we pull 140?
Excuse me, Mike, which one?
140.
I was going to
140?
ask the same, and with
Can we
explanation.
take a
ask Mr.
roll?
Cumming if
Mr.
he's-
Cumming, you okay? Any others you want pulled?
Yes,
Which
I'm
one?
okay with it.
Okay. Take the roll call for everything but 140, Mrs. Bukowski?
Right, good.
Councilman Casio?
Yes?
Councilman Cummings?
Yes,
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Resolution number 19-140, authorize cancellation of general capital grant receivable.
Need an explanation on that.
Similar to the one you had last time, we're not getting this grant money, open space, and it was raised in 2018 budget to pay that down. The money was spent, $11,081 balance. It was in the 18 budget.
Do you know why we didn't get it? Any idea?
I don't know why we didn't get it, but 2013, I doubt that you're going to get it.
Who was responsible for the grant, the engineer or the administration?
That I don't know. I can check and find out.
Well, it's open space, so it's probably our engineer.
No.
Could you please find out what happened with that, please?
So can I ask,
nothing.
I would like to ask the administration, I'd like to ask Mayor Calamari, and it is not a matter of identifying who, because there's only so many names. So, if you want to put someone's name to it, I'm sure we could throw out 2 or 3 names. My question is, what is the process? Where is the breakdown in the process? And what are we going to do to correct it? So last meeting, it was $250,000 that the town was unable to avail themselves of, and we spent it. And now we have an open space receivable that we are canceling, and it's $11,000. And, it's not the most money, but, it's $11,000 that we could have received as part of a grant, and we're not receiving it. And, are there more? I don't know. Ms. Curran is just jumping on board. I'm sure there could be more.
I haven't seen any of them.
And so I guess my question is, what is the process that broke down for these prior to, and what are we putting in place to prevent it from happening going forward? Because to me, it's a crime that we're tossing money away, quite honestly. So,
I fully agree with you. Let me say, I will let the CFO and administrator research this one and the last one, albeit it's much older, to see, and, see where things broke down, give you a report next time and let you know what caused it to the best we can go back and recreate it, and then what we're going to do going forward to make sure these problems do not recur.
I mean, honestly, when we had, when I worked on programs, there were checklists, and people initialed it. I mean, physically, there's a physical checklist that you go down. There are dates associated with it. There are individuals who are responsible. And if we have a grant, there are 15 steps, or there's 10 steps, or there's 3 steps. But there are people who get paid by the taxpayers that should have some responsibility. And, I don't know what the process is, but I would appreciate, again, we can drag any number of names through and, pin the tail on them. That's not the purpose of this request. This request is to see what went wrong and what we're going to put in place so it doesn't happen going forward.
In 2 words,
Understood.
policy and accountability is what we need.
Okay.
I can tell you a little bit if you'd like, and Bob and I spoke to this, and maybe even the engineer might want to chime in. Normally, when you go out for a bond until you're going to get a grant, normally you bond for the entire amount, because you don't know if you're going to get your grant. Am I right about that? Okay. And sometimes you'll get in a letter that you're going to get it, but you don't get it. So if you don't get it, you got to decide, well, either I'm going to public that money, or I'm not going to spend that portion that I'm not getting with the grant. And that's probably what was not happening in this situation.
Okay.
It wasn't funded in full, so he didn't get it.
Right.
So he didn't have the money to complete the project.
Exactly.
In this case of canceling the receivable, was work done that was there an expectation that monies would be received?
Well, I would think the project was complete and the money was spent and not funded. That's why it had to be raised in the current budget.
Okay. All right, thank you.
We okay to proceed with 140?
Can we find out the exact circumstances? I mean, we're speculating, I believe, at this moment.
Well, do we want to proceed with the way, so
Well,
Mrs.
either
Curran
way, we
could...
have to cancel.
Yeah,
it.
cancel
You have to
anyway,
cancel
so
it
it
no
doesn't
matter
matter.
what. So-
I was not suggesting that
No,
we...
I agree with you,
that
get
we
the
not
answer, yes.
approve this.
Okay.
I think once the hanging is done, the hanging is done, you
Yeah.
know? So, but we had one last meeting, did we not?
250,000, yes.
Quite a lot of money to be
Cancel.
taking out of the voters' pockets.
So could I have a motion to approve Resolution 19-140, authorize cancellation of general capital grant receivable?
So moved.
Second.
And we'll get the information from the administration once it's available. Next
Correct.
meeting.
Yeah, we need a way, as Mr. Tovo so clearly said, a way not, that this shouldn't happen again.
Yep. Roll call?
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Quick couple friendly reminders. Taxes, first quarter taxes are due. Payments not received by Monday, February 11, 2019 will be charged interest back to the 1st of February. Tax office hours are 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. Office closed for lunch between 12:30 and 1:30. The tax office will remain open until 6 p.m. on Monday, February 11, 2019 for your convenience. Pet licensing, the $5 late fee is now in effect. The clerk's office has registered 632 dogs and 47 cats. Commuter parking applications, just a reminder that 2019 hanging commuter parking tags must be displayed to avoid a ticket. Please visit the clerk's office for an application. Town Hall will be closed on Monday, February 18, 2019. The next council meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 19, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn to conference agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under conference agenda, the first thing is the presentation of 2019 budget distribution. Mr. Tovo?
Thank you, Mr. President. As you will see, you have your budget binders on the dais here. No need for any review or comment now, but I would ask that we start looking at days to schedule our budget hearings.
I would like to make a request of the council. I will not schedule any meetings until we have some time to digest this budget. We receive the expenditures on the separate cover during the week for the 2018 spended and budgeted. I'd like everybody to review the budget and send all comments to Mrs. Witkowski. She will then forward it to the administration and Mrs. Curran, get a response back. Once we're happy that we have all the responses back, we will sit down and go through the budget. We do not need to sit here and ask questions during meetings when we can have the answer before we start the meetings. Time is valuable for everybody, and I don't think we need to sit here for, days on days like we did last year. And now that we have Mrs. Curran here full-time, she can get us the answers to all our questions prior. I know some may come up, that we don't get all of them, but I'd like to, have everybody, digest the budget, come up with all their questions, get them to Mrs. Witkowski. She'll disseminate them to everybody, so we don't violate any Open Public Meetings Act. We'll get the answers back, and then we'll schedule a meeting, hopefully before the next meeting. Is everybody okay with that?
So when would you like that?
I would like you to start looking at it. You just received it tonight, so let's try to get it before, the end of the month, or next week, whatever you think. How much time do you think you need, Mike? A week, 2 weeks?
At least a week.
Yeah, I'd say a week, right? So if we could have all the questions in before our next meeting, as many as we can, and then we'll give Judy the following week to respond to them, or as they come in, she'll respond to them. And then we can schedule our meeting at the next meeting for the first budget session, if that's okay.
Is it possible to get this in a soft copy on in an electronic file?
Electronic, you mean, so?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. Make it much easier to do the analysis and just
Okay.
shoot the information across.
And Mike, I just want to please give a shout out to the administrator and CFO. It was a pleasure putting the budget together with them this year, and all the department heads, cooperated. So this is only my second year of doing the mayor one, but this year went a lot smoother than last year did. So kudos to everyone who was involved.
Thank you.
Mr. Tovo, is there a projected tax impact as of yet from your established, your request?
Yes, we're close to that number, but there's still a couple of numbers we're waiting to have come in on a few of our contracted services. So in about a week, we'll have that number.
And we can have a number, okay.
So this way, we'll have it hopefully by our next meeting, and we could then schedule our meetings.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to council ordinances and legislation, use of facilities continuation. Dr. Cassio, Mr. Cumming.
I just talked to Art. I'm still waiting for two towns to get some information for them, or from them, for about the way they use their facilities. So we're just waiting for that information, and we will definitely have it to you for next meeting.
One of the things I'd like to bring up, can we come up with organizations that are truly not-for-profits and organizations which are utilizing our facilities for profit?
That's going to be on the list.
Okay.
We're going to make sure that's broken down, if it's a true for-profit or a true IRS 503C.
501(c), yeah.
501(c). So that'll be in the analysis that we have. Okay?
Yes.
Please. The reason why I put this back on here with some more backup is because this is the time of year where people are coming in and trying to schedule going forward.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to get it done as soon as possible, so we have it. I know people are coming in, and what you don't, you go.
I don't know what to charge them, that's my problem.
You
Do I
go-
do it per event? Do I do it annually? Do I just say we're working on it and we'll get back to you if you need to pay? That's where my problem is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she'll get back to them within a month.
Okey-doke.
Okay, you'll have it,
Thank you.
okay?
Well, can I just ask, we have a
We have one already
ordinance.
established.
It's not very clear on whether it's per event or per year. So we have organizations that are using our facilities multiple days of the year, and they're only being charged, and they're basically using it for free because the number is so low that it's a benefit to them to come here for free almost.
So if it's not clear, why don't we just charge them per use, and then why err on the conservative side?
There's no reason why you can't do that.
Why, when it's not clear, like, right now Sue's problem is that she doesn't know if it's per annually fee, the $150, or is it per event that they're using our facilities, or per day?
It should be per use. That's when I look at it, that's my interpretation of it, but it doesn't generally say that in the.
It's very ambiguous.
Yeah, so we have to, firm that up. And then we have to decide is that if an organization is using the field numerous times, are you going to charge, is there a reduced fee for bulk, so to speak? So those are things we have to really,
Well, I think it all
fish
depends
out.
on if you're a not-for-profit or a for-profit. If you're a
That-
for-profit,
that's-
it should be every time you
Yeah,
use it.
That's part of the mix. There's no doubt
You need
about
to
it.
push the
Oh,
microphone
I'm
because you're not
sorry.
on the mic.
Yeah, that's part of the mix. So we got to decide, how we want to, break it down. And I'm sure me and Art will be able to come up with a good solution, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just to chime in, I don't think you could do an annual rate, because it would be a steal. Everyone could say,
Of
I
course.
want to book it 3 days a week for 52
Exactly.
weeks.
That's why I don't interpret it. that way,
Right.
Because,
That's throwing something in that has no relevance to say it's an annual fee. It doesn't say it's an annual fee. As a matter of fact, it's referenced to daily rates.
Well, Mr. Pollard, if you look at what this town has collected from organizations, it's an annual fee.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is if we go back through our books
Right?
and, look up Joe Schmo's softball academy, he's paid $150 annually because somebody internally misinterpreted that and charged him one-time fee. And so if you look at the revenue if you look at all the people that are using our facilities, it's not.
So someone is,
Long and short of it, if you have to ask the question, it needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but,
that's the bottom line.
I mean, because someone can't make an interpretation or is misinterpreting doesn't mean that we have to throw it out.
not at all.
Peter, is your
I
mic
mean,
on?
schedule is based on a 3-hour block. Athletic field, schedule is based
Yeah.
on a 3-hour block.
Right.
Additional hours will be prorated. Doesn't get any clearer than that.
Yeah, yeah.
All other services in addition
Mr.
to
Tovo, can we advise whoever collects the fees of the correct ordinance going forward from today on, please, then?
We can.
I'll leave it at that, please, and we'll
Yes, sir.
stop there so we don't have to rice anybody.
Well, there's nothing to write, I mean,
No, well, it involves personnel because it's
it has
being
nothing to do,
misinterpreted.
it has nothing to do with personnel. It has everything to do with an ordinance that's being misapplied, and now we're clarifying it.
Well, if the person collecting the fees is misinterpreting the ordinance and collecting them wrong, it does.
We'll work on it.
We'll tighten it up, so there's no ambiguity,
Thank you.
okay?
Moving on, ordinance 14-03, amend to include smoke-free zones, including but not limited to vaping, e-cigarettes, tobacco, etc., public vehicles, continuation. Mr. Pollard?
Yeah, so this was the issue of extending the no smoking, no vaping to all public areas, all public buildings. There was some discussion last time of the vehicles. So what I did was to give you a kind of an overview, was to give you ordinances from various towns. It's like a menu of things to choose from. I mean, I can come up with an ordinance, but again, I always like to have an idea of what you want included, what your thought process is. Sometimes you're in favor of being aggressive or less aggressive in a particular instance. So what I did ask for, and I think it was from the last meeting, was that if you would give me which ordinance or ordinances or provisions you would like to see in an ordinance, then I could do an overall draft.
I liked Wyckoff's ordinance the best.
Okay?
Wyckoff or Park Ridge had the two best ones, I think. What do you gentlemen have for your favorites?
I didn't really look at it, so I can't tell you, but anything that limits it, I'm in favor of, is, make it as restrictive as possible, and broaden the scope to include all the harmful paraphernalia.
I think Wyckoff and Park Ridge, spelled out every one of their park, it said, hey, all parks in town, under this map and so forth.
Right,
And I think
right.
that's what we need here too, so I think vehicles and, stuff like that, I think it was a very well-written ordinance.
All right, then what I'll do is I'll draft up something. The only thing I'll say to you is if in your extra time you happen to go through any of the other ordinances and you happen to see something in there that's not included in the
Oh,
Park
you want
Ridge
to add it
and
to
you'd
it?
like to see in there, just let me know. Give me an email. That way I'll have a complete draft, Okay?
Mr. Allman, anything else? Mr. Cumming, anything else?
No, that sounds good.
And this is just for smoking and vape products?
Yes. Well, tobacco. Yes,
Including
smoking.
the vehicles, yes?
Yes, included vehicles.
Cool.
Public vehicles.
When I say tobacco, it's because it's chewing,
vehicle.
it's chewing, remember that chewing tobacco issue
Yep.
was, that's included here in this ordinance anyway.
Mr. Pollard, on the Airbnb two-family homes, you had given us a bunch of ordinances.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. So, this comes from a couple of different sources. One is the advertising for, vacation homes and
Correct.
things of that nature. But there's another part of this as well, and that is that the code enforcement official is getting brokers coming to him looking for an affirmation that certain residences are legal two-family homes, which, of course, they're not. He's not giving any written opinions to any brokers or anything of that kind. But apparently, there was something with when the revaluation company did the revaluation, on their records, I guess they noticed certain homes must have had second kitchens or set up for more than one family. And in their write-up, I guess, put them down as two-family homes. Now, that doesn't make them legal, but that's where some of this is coming from. So I thought, and the way our ordinances are right now, I mean, it does not permit the two-family, but I think at this point we should be clearer and put it out there so that it's very easy to point that, it's a prohibited use.
Okay.
As well as the other ordinances that I did come up with, or I guess Sue came up with.
Well, the Paramus one is, both of them are very good models, I think,
Right.
to use. The Woodcliff Lake one is, I think, even more, is more stringent than the Paramus one, but I think they're both good starting points for you.
Okay?
I don't know what else the council thinks. But my second question is, how come when the building department was advised by the reval company that we had, residents with two kitchens and...
I don't think the building department would be advised by the
Why,
redevelopment.
the assessor would have been advised, who then should have contacted the building department and sent somebody out for an inspection. I grew up in an Italian house. We had a basement kitchen all my life, except when I moved to Hasbrook Heights. So, that's a different story because,
In other words, it's a permitted use
it's a
at all
permitted
times.
use if you're Italian, right? But unfortunately, when we moved from Brooklyn to New Jersey, we didn't have a basement kitchen any longer. So, I think maybe we should be a little proactive instead of reactive. And maybe the tax assessor could advise the building department of where these exist. And we could do an inspection to make sure.
Well, we have a list, we do have the list now.
Okay.
We have the list, and the code enforcement official does have the list, and he is going to follow up on them not being permitted.
Good, okay.
But from a legislative point of view,
We need this.
we would like to make it clearer that it is a non-permitted use, so that when a broker looks at it or anybody looks at it, it's clear that it's not
It's
a
a
permitted
non-permitted
use.
use.
Yeah. Now, what I asked for was, were there any planning board or zoning board records where any variances were given for, like a mother-daughter situation where they did give them permission? So I asked, I think part of the inquiry, and I asked the secretary? Barbara, yeah, I asked her to take a look at the board records to see if there's anything about this.
Any of these homes.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is I guess it's very difficult to go try to find where these records might be, if there are any. You'd have to look at all,
Well, why can't we
It's-
put the
it's almost-
onus on the
it's almost-
homeowner? Why can't we put the onus on the homeowner to provide them if they
well,
exist?
no, we are. No, what I'm saying is, we're gonna, the code enforcement official's taking the position right now that they're not legal.
Correct.
All of them. I said to him in my discussions, one of the things that we would need to look at if somebody's insisting on it is, are there any
Records.
And I just had asked if it,
Okay.
to keep it in a certain way. You're right, the burden would be on them.
Correct.
Because the code enforcement official makes the interpretation, and if somebody's aggrieved by that, they take an appeal to the zoning board. So,
Can I ask a question? Because these ordinances and the discussion was about Airbnb. So what are we talking about? Airbnb or illegal two-families?
yes, it was kind of both things. I was trying to marry them together. The Airbnb was one, and that clearly is these ordinances. But I was just also throwing in, the two-family.
Well, I guess people are trying to rent on Airbnbs, their house is a two-family house.
Right.
So that's how that got involved.
Yeah,
So-
it's just a little bit crossover, that's all. Clearly, the Airbnb is these ordinances that, to take a look at.
Are there Are you aware, or are we aware, or is the, I don't know how the assessor is.
I've been told by residents that people have Airbnb listings. I have not seen them, but I've been.
Not so much that, but the pre-existing non-conforming. I mean, there are some houses in town that are a little older than the 60s. Would they fall before our zoning?
Could be a non-conforming use. I mean, again, the burden is on the occupant, owner, the property, you know, that kind of a thing. And certainly, the code enforcement official isn't going to say it's a permitted use. I mean, it usually typically starts with people have it, and they go to the broker, and the broker says, I want to list it as a, and goes to the zoning.
Of course, the
Yeah.
broker always loves to list it as a
Right.
two-family.
Right, exactly.
And unless it has 2 meters, and 2 electric meters, and 2 gas meters, and so on and so forth, and a variance from the zoning.
Well, that's why I
It's
asked
not
if
legal.
Right, right,
Never has been, you know.
right, right.
What's the,
So it ought to be straightened out with them, and the assessor should be straightening it out with this reval company, who, if we're throwing the blame on them now.
Well, I'm not into the blame game, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, well,
I'm
I
not
mean-
blaming anybody. All I'm saying is, we have a situation, here's how we're gonna deal with it in terms of saying they're not permitted uses. I do recommend tightening our ordinance so that it's clearer, so there is no question. And it's out there that if anybody says it's a two-family, it's up to them to prove it.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I'm.
But we should adopt an Airbnb ordinance like these other towns have in their surrounding
Yeah,
towns.
right.
So I guess if you could meld the two of those together also.
Well, I don't know if they should be melded together, but I wanted to kind of just cover it. I would cover that in a different area. But I would cover it because it's the same subject matter, that's the only
Yeah.
reason.
No, I'm saying the B&B ordinance.
Yeah.
But either follow the Woodcliff Lake one or the.
Oh, that,
or the Travis one.
yeah. For the Airbnb,
Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah.
excuse me, Ken?
Yep.
What's the, what would be the book of record for that in terms of a two-family? So we have zoning that precludes two-family. So in theory, there's not a legal two-family house in the township unless they've been before the zoning board and received that variance.
Right.
Is that a factual statement?
That's part of it. It could also be, as Art was saying, before zoning existed, which put the prohibition in, if it was being used that way, it might qualify as a pre-existing
Okay.
non-conforming use.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wonder what year our original ordinance was.
I think it was 47.
Oh, yeah, well, that's pretty good pre-existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was 47. I'm pretty sure it was 47.
And that's going to knock out most of the houses.
Yeah.
And of course, it is not so desirable, and hopefully not too prevalent.
There aren't a lot, by the way, on the list. The list is not a long list.
Oh, great.
No, it's a list of, I have the list. I mean, I don't think it's 15.
Oh, wow, okay, that's good. All right, we've already discussed township facilities, so we're gonna move on there. I have a sample resolution of the Suez replaced lead service lines from TNEC. It's a demand a commitment from Suez North America to aggressively replace lead service lines they own. Suez has submitted a 15-year plan to replace all the lead lines in their service district. It's a ridiculous timeline to think that we're gonna replace these, take 15 years to replace, and I'd like the council to follow TNEC and a bunch of other municipalities in Bergen County and pass a resolution to demand them to more aggressively pursue removing these lead lines. We all received the alerts in the last 2 weeks that the level of lead in our water has exceeded the threshold, and for them to take the proactive approach of taking 15 years to fix that is, they're doing other things to lower the lead, but to leave these bad lead pipes in for another 15 years to me is, atrocious. So if I could have your support to pass a resolution for the next meeting, that'd be great.
What would you like it to be?
I think it should be a 5 to 7 year plan, half of what they're asking for.
Is that-
Were the lead lines in the contamination areas identified?
You could call and find out. I don't think your complex would be serviced by lead lines. 'Cause
No, I know we're
they're-
not. I know we're all copper.
Yeah,
Of course, we're soldered with lead in 1983,
but you don't have any lead
that I know,
service
but we
pipes.
don't have any lead mains. Surface.
There are places in
entrance.
town that could have them, but there is the website, you put your address in and it tells you if you have one or not. Mm-hmm. So,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
But we should have very, very few, if any at all.
I can't answer
I'm
that question.
personally familiar I'm sorry, sir.
No, it's fine. I just,
As a home inspector who's worked the area, that Teaneck has quite a few.
well, of course, these are gonna be in older municipalities,
homes,
but I think
older towns.
we should support the rest of our,
Okay,
communities and, you know, tell Suez we're not happy with it, so.
a very good thought.
You know, the highest intensity of lead lines are gonna be in your urban cities with the oldest homes and so forth. And that's where the children and the people are gonna suffer because they're they're gonna take the longest to replace those versus out here in suburbia, so.
You mean Flint?
Don't drink the water in the.
Do not drink the water
Yeah,
there.
so.
So,
It's not-
we have Sue prepare that for us for the next meeting, if that's okay with everybody? Yes, no?
Sure.
Strollflow, yes.
Is that?
Everything for health and the children.
Is that a reasonable amount of time for them to replace all that?
I think
7
we should
years?
go for even less.
Well,
How
we're
about
not
3?
telling, we're just saying, we're just telling the Board of Public Utilities that we're not happy with their 15-year plan.
Okay.
Shared services, other towns, Dr. Cassio, Mr. Cumming, we've already addressed this, you're gonna have your committee?
Yes, sir.
We're waiting to hear some responses back. I've heard from 2 towns that are interested, so hopefully we get some more, and we'll go from there.
Appointment of zoning board member, we still have not received any resumes or applications for appointing a new member for the vacancy that expired due to the person moving out. So if anybody would like to join the zoning board, please send your resume to the clerk for consideration. Bergen Jiff elected officials training program dates. Gentlemen, if we can get the dates, there's a training in Hillsdale, there's a bunch in close proximity to us that we can attend for free. We get our Jiff points. So if you could just let Sue or respond directly to the email address, the email and everything to respond is on there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. At this point, do I have a motion to enter into closed session for personnel and tax appeal?
So moved.
Second.
Before we vote, what's the personnel, what department or individual, can that be disclosed?
The personnel is in the police department, and the tax appeal is, Mr. Pollard can give us more information on that.
And do we expect to come back?
We do not expect to come back after a closed session.
That was for me.
So moved.
I'm sorry, who moved? I'm sorry.
I did.
Art, you second?
I second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, if I could ask if Mr. Yakimika is going to join us, can he prepare a report for us as we move forward with the new projects possibly and have him present it?
Yes, that's part of what we will do
Okay.
as we attack the new project.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Every meeting? No, just once a month, I was thinking it's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Because we're only projecting the project
Like our
tracker.
tracking report that we
Yeah.
have up here, yeah.
Okay, you guys go in and close.
Yes.
Yes, thanks for coming. Yeah.
Thank you, good night.
5 minutes?
Yes, 5-minute recess before we go into closed.